Hey folks, here at OS and VTXReviews.com. You're watching our video price fight between the Sony PRS600 ebook reader versus the Nook Simple Touch Edition ebook reader. Both devices have 6-inch e-ink displays that also offer touch capabilities for you to navigate the devices directly, and both devices are fairly pocketable, slim, and easy to carry around and are pretty up-to-date and latest generation in terms of offering e-ink technology in general. Of course, they come from two different manufacturers and run on two different ecosystems, with the Barnes & Noble coming with the Barnes & Noble store for direct access for book downloads, whereas the Sony ebook reader actually does not offer any wireless capabilities such as Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, so you actually cannot download into the web directly using the init. You do directly using the unit, but you can actually plug the device into a PC or a Mac for you to sideload content into the device's memory, or plug in a memory stick card or an SD card for the device to load up PDF files and EPUB files and Word files and also text files. So that's a slight differentiating factor between the two units. As far as build quality is concerned, I have to say that the Sony model is the better one in terms of just having better feel in the hand, and that's because it's made out of metal in the front and has a soft touch material on the back. And overall, it's a little bit more heavier, but also has a more slim profile and feels very hefty in the hand and solidly built. Whereas the Nook Barnes & Noble Simple Touch isn't bad at all, with soft touch materials incorporating the entire unit, but it is a little bit harder to actually hold one-handed due to the larger width, and it tends to be a little bit thicker and heavier in terms of just carrying around in general usage. In terms of, again, just taking a look at visuals, I would say Sony is the better looking ebook reader. As far as pricing is concerned, the Sony PRS600 comes at a street price of around $250 compared to the Barnes & Noble Simple Touch's $100 price tag, which is quite a leap considering that the Sony actually lacks any wireless capabilities, whereas the Barnes & Noble actually offers Wi-Fi on board. And so I think that Sony is offering kind of a premium for their brand name in a sense, and also for the build quality of the unit itself, but in terms of features, it's actually a little bit lacking, so we have to say that Barnes & Noble has the upper hand in that department. As far as interface is concerned, I have to say that both units are about the same in terms of the software side of things. You can see how both devices are very easy to use, and we have one physical control on the bottom of this unit, but on the Sony model we have a few more controls consisting of the home, the page turns, and the such. I have to say, for one-handed usage, the Sony is a little bit easier to use for turning pages because of the just the placement of the buttons is more suited for one-handed usage, whereas on the Nook they are on the sides, or of course you can use a touchscreen display, but I find that this unit is a little bit harder to press in terms of the buttons on the sides than something directly on the front of the unit for the page turns. It also makes the device a little bit easier to grip. As far as e-ink screens are concerned, we have to say that a Barnes & Noble one is better. So if you do plan on doing a lot of ebook reading, perhaps viewing a few images here and there, and you really care about your display, then actually Barnes & Noble has the upper hand. As you can see, the contrast between the blacks and the whites on the newer e-ink screen on this model is a lot more crisp, and text seems a little bit more less pixelated. Also, contrast levels are in general a lot better, whereas on the Sony ebook reader, we have a more of a muddled color and tonality between the actual blacks and the whites, which causes less discernibility in darker environments. So if you do want a pure ebook reading experience based purely off of the screen, the Barnes & Noble Nook Simple Touch actually has a better display. Both devices do not offer any backlight as far as the battery life is concerned. Also, the Barnes & Noble is better even in standby mode. A little bit disappointing from Sony considering they don't have any wireless options. It's just not a very optimized battery, I guess, because battery life only runs about a week or two before it runs out, whereas on the Barnes & Noble it tends to last about a few weeks longer than that. So it does have better battery life, especially with Wi-Fi turned off. Taking a quick look at the UI again from the main page, we have some recently read books and also our currently reading book, and then we can of course press the Nook key for bringing up a list of our home applications, search, and also for our full library. On this unit, we have also a pretty easy to see display that consists of different grids for icons, including continue reading Fahrenheit 451, our different books, our collection, our notes, our text and handwritings, and some more. Sony does offer a few more applications on here, including audiobook support. So if audiobooks are important to you, get the Sony ebook reader because the Barnes & Noble Simple Touch lacks a MP3 player on board. It also offers a few more picture settings and ability to view images, and also perhaps play a few games here and there that you can load onto the unit, which are lacking on the Barnes & Noble Nook. The Barnes & Noble Nook also does not have an experimental web browser like the original model did. Taking a look at the actual processor speed of the unit, it's pretty fast, and books are presented and listed by alphabetical order, and you can slide through and use the device with or without a stylus. As far as touchscreen sensitivity is concerned, Sony does a very good job with it, and texts are pretty easy to load up, and of course it also displays different languages such as Spanish, English, French, Chinese, and the such. And you can see that you can press it once, and you can also use either the touchscreen display or the actual physical controls to turn the pages. Contrastingly, on the Barnes & Noble Nook, the touchscreen display is actually even more sensitive. So if you really don't want to press too hard on your screen, we think that the Nook has a better display, again, not just in visibility, but also in sensitivity. And you can see how on the newer generation of e-ink screens, the flickering effect of changing the screen orientation happens less than on, say, a older Sony e-reader here, where every single page turn is going to result in a flash for the e-ink technology, which can get a little bit annoying. Also, the Sony ebook reader has a little bit of a sluggishness attributed to reading extensive books, as you can see here, as compared to the Barnes & Noble, which tends to be a little bit more snappy in that department. Both devices offer a host of editing capabilities, including highlights, annotations, searching up different words for the dictionary definitions without access to an internet service. You can also, of course, bookmark pages, change the text, change the size, and invert for night or day reading, which are both pretty easy to do, and also change the font on both ebook readers. And essentially that's the ebook reading experience. Again, the Barnes & Noble has the upper hand due to the display in this case. So if we wanted to go home here, again, one benefit the Sony device will have is the ability to recognize different file formats, whereas Barnes & Noble really limits you to their special format and some special EPUB files. Whereas on the Barnes & Noble, as you saw, it could open up Microsoft Word, PDF, text, EPUB, and the list really goes on, which is really quite impressive. And the host of different memory options, from built-in 2 GB of memory from different memory card selections, is also quite impressive. Whereas on the Nook, you are tied down to only 2 gigs of internal storage, and that's it. You can't expand on that, unfortunately. So when it comes down to it, I have to say that in contrast with these two ebook readers, I think they are targeted at slightly different demographics. The Barnes & Noble Nook Simple Touch is a lot of a wider general ebook reader that offers pretty good experience for your money, for your buck, especially because it offers a very good screen and a great price tag attributed to it, whereas the Sony PRS-600 is more expensive, has a better build quality, not as much wireless options, but it still offers a suite of different recognizing different formats when you're actually ebook reading. So if you want to use your device as an extensive file reader, you don't mind using cards or storage or the such, the Sony device is great for doing that. And at the end of the day, they're both pretty comparable, touchscreen ebook readers that you could pick up on the market right now. For the general consumer, I would say that between this price fight, the Barnes & Noble Simple Touch actually comes out on top because of the lower price tag, the better screen, which will please most users, and Wi-Fi access to the store. But again, if you do want a premium ebook reader in terms of the build quality, and you are looking for an extensive amount of file formats that can be supported, perhaps also consider the PRS-600. Thanks for watching this price fight here at OS and VTXReviews.com, and also our brother site at OS Tech News. This has been a comparison between the Sony PRS-600 ebook reader versus the Barnes & Noble Simple Touch ebooks.